to us. And so we wanted to really make sure that both John Lewis and Waitrose, as kind of well-known brands, is really a place where people would aspire to want to come and work with us, and that we really feel that irrespective of people's backgrounds, what their experiences are, they really feel that they can thrive within our business. So some of those principles are really important to us. And last summer, as we announced a package of support for our working families in the business. And we did it because partners were telling us it was really important to them. And we also had been reporting on our gender pay gap for the last 3 or 4 years. And we understood with other research that we knew this was an area that we wanted to be sort of quite market leading. So I was going to touch upon a couple of areas, in particular our new Equal Parenthood Policy, and then also our approach to flexible working, because we feel both of them, we think, are making quite a step change compared to some of our competitors within retail. Like I said at the start, it is still quite early days. So a lot of these changes we introduced towards the back end of 2021, but we're starting to see some interesting findings, but we're going to need to keep tracking that. And it could be something that in a year's time, I come back and just go and share how we're progressing, but we're happy to share some of the early insights that we've seen already. So I guess just speaking to the experience in this virtual room, I know, there's many studies that tell us that the sharing childcare is really good from a gender equality perspective and definitely helping reduce the gender pay gap. And yet being able to afford to take the time off is a real barrier, in particular for low-income families. And we see that, and I'll touch upon some of the insights and research that we've done to understand that. We heard really loud and clear from our partners. So we have a working parents network, and we also have a gender network, whereby they shared with us really loud and clear. So this is other partners telling this network around, in particular, if you look at the 2 weeks paid paternity leave we offered, just wasn't enough. And actually, what we did offer, for many, it wasn't affordable for them to take the time off. So they felt the time wasn't enough for them to really have time with their new family. And also it caused them a real affordability challenge to be able to access that support. So working with our networks, we developed our Equal Parenthood Policy, which essentially means that all of our partners, regardless of how they've become a parent, so that includes adoption as well as also natural birth, will receive 26 weeks paid leave. So that's 14 weeks at full contractual pay and followed by 12 weeks at 50% of contractual pay once they've worked with us for a year. So they need to have been with us a year, and then they would be entitled to be able to access that support. We did have to think quite carefully just about how we designed this policy because of the diverse nature of our business. And we were acutely aware that we have both office jobs that are maybe a bit more easier to accommodate, all the way through to operational roles, whereby we needed to make sure the policy could fit across quite a diverse range of working environments. So we had to think about things such as backfilling partners when they took certain leave, how roles and responsibilities were divided up, and how that could really work in some of our shops and warehouses. So since we've introduced the new policy, we've seen quite a significant increase in the take-up of what was paternity leave, and we now call it co-parent leave. So importantly, we've also changed the terminology of it. So actually for single-sex parents, the traditional maternity, paternity leave, we've purposely gone to call it Equal Parenthood Leave. And on average, partners are taking 16 weeks leave when they have a child. And then only a quarter of our partners so far are taking the additional 12 weeks leave at half pay. And I think that comes back to the point around affordability is a really important factor when people are taking parental leave, because they've just got to be able to balance the books to be able to, still afford their home along with time with their children. We've also seen an increase in partners taking up shared parental leave too. And we think that's because the Equal Parenthood Policy has really raised awareness of their options. So whereas before, because it was either partners could take their maternity leave, and it was such a short paternity leave. Now that there's a lot more equality there, it's actually genuinely driving a conversation about shared care and who would take, because some of the affordability part's been taken off the table, actually, how would they want to go and share those responsibilities? And it's opened up a dialogue that I just don't think made that feasible before. So that's interesting to see, and I think very interesting to go and track going forward. We really have had an overwhelming response from our co-parents taking the leave, what it means to them. It's been incredibly positive. It was very positive when we launched it. And we continue to get great feedback of just such a difference it makes. It's such an early part of bringing, a child into, the household, and actually just the options and their ability to be able to really play a key part has been really important. And there's a real sense that they can be in it together with their birth partner from the start, and have that important bonding time, which we just know is really critical with their new baby. We've had also quite a bit of feedback from our co-parents whose partners have had traumatic births, or they've had long recoveries from, say, C-sections, and that's been because they've been able to take the extra time off to support them. And we'd heard before we brought in the policy, actually that was some of the things some of our partners really struggled with, that actually there were difficult circumstances with, say, a birth, and someone could only really take a week off and they had to go straight back to work because they couldn't afford to take any more time off. So it has definitely created quite a shift for the kind of not straightforward situations to give people, again, optionality to be able to provide more support. We've also heard that it's really helped them. Their partner is self-employed. So this is where they might be with a partner that works outside of John Lewis, and they might be running their own business. And we've heard that they've, in particular, our new policy has allowed some women that are self-employed to go and still maintain their responsibilities of running their business and keeping their business going, and enabling their partner, co-partner, to go and take on some of the burden and some of the responsibilities of a child coming in to their family. Which again, I think is quite an interesting dynamic when you go to look at, how do we go and help women, continue with either running their business or running their careers because they've got more options. So we know we're learning lots. Like I say, these are quite initial observations. We're only sort of 3-4 months into it, and we are going to continue to monitor the impact of the policy, and in particular the experience of our partners that are coming back from extended leave, to see whether this flexible approach for all genders is really working in our business. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but we're feeling confident, just given the positive response, that will continue to have it in that way. So the second area I wanted to just touch upon was flexible working. So we again have done quite a lot of work around our flexible working that started earlier than 2021. I think it's fair to say the pandemic has really gone and accelerated some of our thinking, which I think other organisations have had the same, just by need and necessity. And we know that retail has been a destination of choice, in particular for women, because of the flexible working that's built into jobs in terms of how retail is structured. So often working hours, shift patterns can be agreed around caring responsibilities. And we know it's one of the few sectors, along with education and health and social care, which also often offers jobs that are close to home as well, which makes a real impact to them be able to look after their caring responsibilities as well as their jobs as well. So like I say, our flexible working has existed within our business quite a while, and we have done quite a bit to think about how do we really creatively make it work more. And like I say, the last 2 years has really made us think quite carefully about how do we open it up. We have nearly half of our partners that work part-time. So that's about just over sort of 45,000 partners that work part-time. And we have been looking at how do part-time workers progress more in their career, sort of address some of the cultural barriers that we have and perceptions of part-time working. So there has been a historical view that if you work reduced hours, it means your contribution's not as much, and therefore you're not the type of person that would then want your roles because you're working part-time because of other responsibilities. So we've really been trying to challenge some of those attitudes and views to recognise that part-time working really adds significant value and contribution to our business. We partnered with the Behavioural Insights team a couple of years back and the Government Equalities Office to trial a flexible working wording on our job adverts. So we tried to be a lot more proactive with showing that, you know, we embrace flexible working, and this definitely saw an increase in applications. So we saw an increase by about 50% of the vacancies that we're advertising internally, and we also saw a increase in the proportion of applications from women as well for those roles. So we saw an uplift of about 13%. So it was incredibly positive with us being more proactive, with us recognizing there are different ways to working than the more kind of traditional full-time. So we now have a flexible first policy. So in all vacancies that we advertise across the whole of the partnership, doesn't matter where you are, we are very explicit upfront that we would consider flexible working options. We do have a few operational reasons that we might restrict it, but to be honest, that's in the minority. We have really pushed all of our leaders to go and start with the opening point of, you could be able to work flexibly, let's go and have the conversation, rather than the other way round. And so far we have definitely seen that step change. So I guess we know there is more we can be doing. I don't think we sit as being the best in it all, but we definitely feel pretty proud in terms of some of the inroads we have made. And we really want the partnership to be a kind of go-to place from an employer perspective, that people come and think that they can really go and you know, be themselves, be able to have, you know, caring responsibilities whilst also holding key responsibilities and roles, and be able to progress their careers within the partnership. So look, we feel pretty excited about it, and I'll pause, I think, at this point